Alright, we're going to do a fourth game here. Usually I don't do this, but because that game number 2 against the Klops Fiend was so short and pretty bad, I did want to throw at least another one in there to see how it goes. Opening hand is okay. We do have 2 lands available to us, no blue mana, so we are going to miss that first drop on the Delver because we are on the play. Opponent did have to drop down, so that is going to at least work in our favor. Starting out with the Grotto, worst case scenario, I could be looking at playing this mountain here on turn 2 and using the Grotto to play the Delver. Draw into a Prism here, so that can give us an opportunity to draw a card and hopefully find some blue mana. Unfortunately, it does not work out that way. So opponent's playing a pretty cool deck. Another thing that I like to play when I'm having fun over in the casual room. It is going to be a Turbo Jace Fog kind of deck, using white as opposed to green. Green's often used, but white actually has, I have learned, quite a lot of prevent damage spells in Pauper, and it will be quite frustrating. Perhaps a bit of a misplay there. I decided to use the Grotto to create blue mana to put the Delver into play. I think knowing that this was a Turbo Fog kind of deck, what I probably should have done in retrospect is use the Prism there to generate the blue mana to play the Delver and use the Firebolt so I can get damage in as early as possible. One of the things you want to look out for against these kind of Turbo Fog decks is the opportunity to play a lot of burn spells and cast that damage when he's tapped out and doesn't have the chance to play any kind of prevention. You want to get in damage as early as possible so that you can really start getting things moving. Because when it gets to the late game, when he's got more mana, things like these double mana leaks in hand are not going to be very effective. This is where I did kind of start to realize that I wanted to start getting this damage going. We're going to bring up our graveyard here so we can at least see our options as far as flashback goes. But as the game progresses, if he is still making his land drops, these mana leaks become weaker and weaker as he gets more and more opportunity to play other lands and have that 3 mana available to him. End of turn, Vision Skynes is going to allow us both to draw. Kind of works against him in a way. It does work to trigger the erasure. However, it doesn't have a lot of effect because of the fact that he's only got 1. It is going to mill me by 2, but it's also refilling my hand, which is going to work really great, something that a control deck really wants anyways. Usually I would only be able to do so through my own Mulldrifters and the Prisms, kind of with the teachings, but when he's giving me cards, it's really actually working pretty well in my favor. Once again, going to miss the flip here on the Delver. Pretty unfortunate, hitting a lot of Grottos as well, which can be kind of detrimental. At least we do have a Prism, so it's going to give us a chance to find blue mana easier. So going to mill quite a few cards, losing a Stagger Shock there. And a turn, going to find Teachings. Got to be a little bit careful because of the fact that he's using things like the Skynes and cards that allow both players to draw. And so that can lead to a chance that I deck myself. So you got to be a little bit cautious of that. I get a Stagger Shock because I like to, again, get through damage when I have the chance and he is tapped out. Power Sink is going to be revealed here and going to finally flip my Delver over, and I can do a little bit faster on the damage. So, milling an island there. The mill is not terrible against us because of the fact that the Firebolts are in deck, the Mystical Teachings are in deck, and we're kind of looking for that flashback anyways. If we can start building up a core of Familiars and reduction spells, then we can start playing a lot of these things once they're in our graveyard. A little bit unfortunate for our opponent there that we are a deck that is kind of okay with the fact that he's throwing our cards in the graveyard. So end of turn, Stagger Shock. It's going to rebound here. Again, trying to do damage as fast as I possibly could. Going to put out a Familiar, and like I said, if we can start building up those Familiars, we can start playing more and more spells, and just have to be a little bit cautious of how things are starting to look when it comes down to our deck size. So swinging through, doing some damage. This game can get a little bit tedious towards the middle here as he builds up his land and starts to get the chance to play all of these spells of his to prevent damage. Riot Control, one of the new ones, does gain him life in addition to preventing damage, so that's going to be a little bit frustrating. Later on, if I'm looking to counter a spell, I'm going to look to counter that type of prevention as opposed to something like a Holy Day. So going to throw out Mulldrifter, trying to again refill our hand. Like I said, his ability to give us both draw is almost hurting him, because as a control deck I want to refill my hand, and he's basically aiding me in doing so. Does find me another familiar there, another Teachings. He's continuing to build up his mana base. End of turn, I'm going to take the chance to use the Teachings. This gives him the opportunity now to use these Skynes. He does know that I have the Power Sink in hand. It was revealed to him. So he knows now that I am tapped out, that I've given him the chance to use those. Do find another Power Sink. I've lost a lot of what I really wanted. I was looking for more Stagger Shocks, but as you see, all three of them have been thrown to the graveyard. Two of them were milled. One of them was cast earlier. So I decided to go with the Power Sink. Not a lot of options there, actually. I'm starting to reach a point where I'm running out of instant spells. I figured at the very least that might give me a chance to prevent more Jace's Erasures from hitting the field. Having one on the field is not good for my opponent. It is actually... more going to become more troublesome. One card a turn is not going to really cost me a whole lot. I think he kind of is misbuilt a little bit. I think things like the Ponders or Brainstorms would give him a lot of opportunities to draw on his own. Gives him more mill off of even a single erasure, and doesn't benefit his opponent any. So, going to tap out to play the Electromancer, again building up a creature base because I want to get in as much damage as possible, knowing that he has plenty of prevention. And there comes a Holy Day. We're going to try and go through this kind of fast because there are several turns here where it's going to be him going, land, pass, me attack, prevention, pass. And we're both just kind of sitting back doing nothing. So, attacking through. This is where I said what I really want to do is try and prevent the Riot controls as opposed to Holy Days because of the life gain it's going to give him. So I am going to use a Power Sink. Power Sink does work kind of nicely because of the fact that it taps out lands. One thing I did learn from this game, and I have not had the opportunity to kind of test this and do this myself, but with the reduction you have on the field, the Electromancer and these two familiars, they do actually give you an opportunity to play this Power Sink and start off the bat with 3. So when I'm playing this Power Sink, I pay 1 blue mana to pay the blue and the casting cost. Then I have these familiars and the Electromancer, which are basically going to make this spell that it's already taking 3. So this is basically going to work as a mana leak for 1 blue at this current state. If I paid no other mana except for that 1 blue, it works as a mana leak where it's going to counter unless he pays 3. So it works really great here. It's going to basically cancel this out. He has 2 more available, so I have to only tap out 3 additional lands, as you see here. Hopefully it's clear enough to get to that 6 and prevent that Riot control from happening. In response, he can Holy Day, and I'm okay with that. If he's going to prevent it, that's fine. I just don't want him gaining the life off of Riot control. What I'm going to look for here is attacking every turn, so that he finds himself in a situation where he is out of cards. He really needs to be drawing cards to refill his hand and find more fog spells. So I'm going to look to try and counter not only the Riot controls, but I'm going to look to counter card draw. It's going to, first off, prevent the erasure from taking cards away from my deck, and second off, going to keep him off of finding additional copies of prevention, damage prevention. I'm okay not countering things like Holy Day, because eventually he's going to run himself dry if he does not draw more cards. So we're going to go through several turns here where Dawn's Charm and things like this are going to just prevent. Getting me down now to 20 cards in deck. Don't get to flip this Delver just yet. I'm going to run into quite a little issue trying to flip that because I've lost so much already. But we're going to still attack on and try and make this happen. 5 cards in my opponent's hand, down to 4 with the casting of that Holy Day. I do actually kind of have enough to finish this off with the Firebolts here. The Holy Day is going to prevent all combat damage, and I think it would have given me more opportunity if I tried to be a bit more aggressive with the Firebolt. But hindsight, again, is 20/20. So he's trying to draw cards here, and again, I'm going to use the Power Sink. It's going to get 3 automatically off of these reductions, and I can cast only an additional 6. I'm sorry, an additional 3, yeah. Sorry, math is not my strong suit. Tap an additional 3 to be able to Power Sink that and finish it off. he's going to attempt in response to get Words of Wisdom in around that counterspell. He did know that I had those 2 power sinks in hand, so he was kind of just drawing those out. Going to Mana Leak, however. At this point, he does have the opportunity to pay the 3, but I am going to use Mana Leak once again, and hopefully this will just work to stop the draw that he has. Now this puts him in a situation, only 2 cards in hand. That's kind of where I want to be. I can now use the Flicker to draw some additional cards myself, but I'm at 19, so I'm a little hesitant to do so. 3 cards in hand. If he does not have a prevention spell, this is going to be game over, and so his odds of having those are decreasing slightly. He does have one there. What was that one? Ethereal Haze. Prism is revealed, so the Delver does not flip. We are going to simply play the Prism. This one, unlike Holy Day, prevents all damage, so the Firebolts I have don't do any damage, because that prevents all. If Holy Day was played, then I had the opportunity at least to do some extra damage off of the Firebolts when I had no other plays here. So again, we're in the situation where it's just kind of draw go. Attempt to flip the Delver here. He does Dawn's Charm. So that, I think, is where I misplayed a little bit. This game is kind of stuck anyways. The Dawn's Charm works like the Holy Day, where it works that I can't do combat damage, but the Firebolt damage would have gone through. So 2 cards in hand. I'm guessing he did not draw into another prevention spell, so he does not have the ability to stop me next turn. I would have swung through here for, I believe, 12. I do have, Firebolt does another 2 and another Firebolt in my graveyard. So it was game over, but a pretty cool deck. Unfortunately for him, only 1 Erasure is not enough early to get a mill deck going. But definitely cool to see someone else trying something when it comes to Turbo Fog.